Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dani Taylor. I'm the owner of VeganProteins, and today I'm going to be giving you a video recipe for one of my all-time favorite foods, cheese. Yes, before I went vegan, I ate a lot of cheese, and when I first went vegan back in 2003, the vegan cheese that was on the market was awful, but it has come so far since then, and there are so many vegan cheeses readily available at almost any grocery store at the moment, and a lot of them are very good. But they can be kind of pricey, and also the macros on them aren't great. So I wanted to try and make a homemade vegan cheese that had better macros. So I have to give credit where credit is due, and Miyoko Schinner is the goddess of vegan cheeses. And this book, The Homemade Vegan Pantry, is one of my all-time favorite cookbooks, and this recipe is adapted from one of her cheese recipes in the book, of which there are many. So if you like to make your own stuff from scratch, I can't recommend this book enough. You can see I've got Post-it notes in it. I use it all the time. So the base of this recipe and what makes it taste tangy like a regular cheese is Rejuvelac. And what Rejuvelac is it's basically water made from quinoa. And I am actually going to show you how to make Rejuvelac. It takes about a day or so. So this is something that you can make a bunch of in advance and keep it in your fridge. This batch here has actually been in my fridge for about 3 weeks and it's still good. Alternatively, if you don't want to wait a day, you can use sauerkraut juice. So just make sure you get a raw live sauerkraut, and you can use the juice in equal parts in this particular recipe. Okay, so to make the Rejuvelac, what I have here is a half a cup of quinoa, and I'm just covering it with water. In about 8 hours or so, I'm gonna drain the water off, rinse it, and leave it on my counter. And I'm just gonna keep rinsing it every couple hours until the little quinoas start to sprout tails. That's how you'll know that the quinoa has sprouted. As soon as that happens, I'm gonna fill this all the way up with water and let it sit on my counter for a day or so. And after that, the water will get a little bit cloudy, a little bit bubbly, and that liquid is the Rejuvelac. So then I will strain it off into a separate jar and keep it in my fridge for up to a month or so. And I can use it in all of my cheese recipes. Super easy to make, loaded with probiotics, highly recommend it. Okay. So it's been about 8 hours, so I'm gonna drain this. And then I am just gonna put the rest of it back in the jar here. So now I have this jar of wet quinoa, and I'm just gonna keep an eye on it for those tails to sprout. Okay guys, so it's only been a couple of hours. I don't know if this is gonna focus, but hopefully you can see the tails on this quinoa. They're starting to come off and separate from the little seeds. So now I'm just gonna fill this jar up with water and wait for it to get cloudy and start to bubble. Okay guys, I just wanted to show this to you. This is the next morning. See how the water here is cloudy, and hopefully you can see the bubbles coming up. They might have just stopped, but it was quite bubbly a second ago. So that is the finished Rejuvelac. Okay, so the ingredients we're gonna be using today are going to be Rejuvelac, firm tofu, and this is just from a regular pack with water, raw cashews, I'm just having them soak in hot water, miso paste, I'm using a chickpea miso, but you can use any miso, nutritional yeast, a teaspoon of salt, yellow mustard, just regular yellow mustard is fine, and then in a second step we're going to be using tapioca starch and agar powder. Okay, so once you have all your ingredients, it's a pretty simple recipe. It just takes some time because it has to ferment. So we're gonna start with 1 cup of the Rejuvelac, 1/3 cup of cashews soaked, 150 grams of firm tofu, 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, 2 tablespoons of miso, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of yellow mustard. And I'm just using a NutriBullet or a Magic Bullet here, and I'm going to blend it up until it is completely smooth and I don't see any chunks left to the tofu. So this will probably take about 2 minutes, which I will spare you. So this looks really, really smooth right now. That actually took closer to like 30 seconds, but it's really just gonna depend on the strength of your blender. I am gonna let this sit at room temperature on the counter for 8 hours, and that's gonna give it time to ferment. Okay, so in a medium saucepan over medium heat, we are going to add a half a cup of water, and we are gonna add 1 tablespoon of agar powder. Now this is a seaweed powder. This is the thickening agent. This is what's gonna allow it to gel and set and also melt later. I'm gonna whisk that quickly. And then I am going to cover the pot and let it sit for exactly 3 minutes. It's going to bubble and gel and turn into a solid and then turn back into a liquid, and that's what we want. In a separate dish, I'm taking 2 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of tapioca starch rather. And I'm just gonna dissolve the starch in the 2 tablespoons of water here. This might need to be mixed again just before we add it. Sometimes the starch settles, but it should look like this. This is the thickening agent. So the agar is a setting and gelling agent, and this is going to thicken it. Okay, now we have our container of the cheese mixture. It's thickened up a little bit over the 8 hours. You can taste it as it is to see if it's as tangy as you like it. And you can let it get tangier, leaving it out longer, but I wouldn't leave it out for more than, say, 12 hours because tofu doesn't do too well at room temperature for much longer than that. So we're gonna pour that in while it's still over medium heat and whisk it as we do it. Okay, and we are gonna whisk and stir for about 3 more minutes here. Stir it the whole time. Now you can see this is really bubbling away here. That's what we want. Now what we're gonna do is add that tapioca mixture while we whisk as well. This should thicken up quite quickly. As you can see, it's already thickening as I'm stirring it. So you see it starts to get stringy and a little bit elasticy, and that's what we want to happen. So make sure you stir it really, really well. And you can see it's starting to get really cheesy here. All right, so this is what it should look like. And what we're gonna do from here is just pour it into our mold. So you can use any kind of mold you want. I am just using a glass Pyrex dish. You can use a rubber spatula to make sure you get everything out. And you can see how stretchy and melty this is. I'm just gonna shake it around. I'm gonna put it in the fridge for probably about 8 hours to set. Okay guys, so I just took the cheese out of the fridge and I'm going to show you what it looks like now that it's all set. So here is what it looks like all set up. And you can see it's nice and firm. And I'm just gonna turn it out onto a plate. And I wanted to show you guys, so this makes about 18 servings or so. You can weigh yours out if you would like, and you can take it out this way. Do it as a little wedge of cheese. So you can see it's pretty firm. You could have it as is. You could slice it and use it on sandwiches. One of my favorite things to do is to grate it and melt it down that way to make into like grilled cheese sandwiches. So you can eat it cold, and it is good cold, but I think that it really shines as a melted cheese. So putting it in a sandwich, putting it on top of a baked potato, that's where it really, really shines. And for the macros, which I will list here, you cannot beat it. You can't beat it in terms of vegan cheese. So I just wanted to show you some of the things you can do with the cheese. Here I have frozen broccoli that I cooked and melted the cheese onto with a little bit of bacon bits. That spices up the broccoli. This is just air fried potato with some salt and pepper and the melted cheese and some green onions. A pizza that I made with the Joseph's low carb crust, some sauce, the melted cheese, and some Kalamata olives. This is a little tiny cheese plate, so you could have the cheese hard as well. And this is what the whole wheel looks like. One serving is about 28 grams, which is a serving of most vegan cheeses on the market. It's super, super diet friendly, and it can add a lot of flavor and texture to your dishes to keep things interesting. If you guys like this and want to see more recipes like this, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. I put out new videos every Thursday with my husband Giacomo, and we definitely take requests if there's something you want to see. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you soon.